Hello, hello. Welcome to Free Talk Friday. Looking forward to having a great fall, and I hope and trust everyone is doing okay. Um, Yesterday was National Prayer Day. Today is Free Talk Friday. So I am Dawn Saunders, and I have my co-host with me, Kamika Durgans, and I just want to welcome you. So I'm gonna let Kamika welcome you. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kamiko. So glad to be here today. Um, Yesterday was for us the National Day of Prayer. It was awesome. It was amazing. And so grateful. And I hope you all got a chance to participate in it. So I want to welcome you for coming on and watching with us today. And yeah, looking to get into this discussion.
Awesome. I know it's one of those discussions that seems to be real tense and could be
Mm.
sensitive and sad at the same time. It's nothing fun about, suicide. So as we gonna dig into it, we just want to talk. We're just gonna talk. It's free talk, and just hear some of the things that's been going on in your state, in your city. What are some of the actions that's being taken, regarding suicide, and not just only suicide, but just the different ailment and the different mental health issues that's been overtaking our young ones and old ones. It's really sad because you know it's it's basically saying the individual is just saying I am hopeless. There is no out. There is no way of solving my problems. There is nothing nobody can do, and you're having 10-year-olds committing suicide or attempting to commit suicide. And I'm trying to understand what problem that is so drastic for a 10-year-old to undertake that they feel completely hopeless to the point of no resolve. And I know we have 10-year-olds, 5-year-olds that's being abused physically, sexually, mentally, verbally. It's just so many things that's happening to our children. We have young adults that's going through torment. They're going through starvation, manipulation. We have all ages who have been thrown out on the street, who have developed mental health issues and gone untreated, and yet they are still surviving. Some of them have attempted suicide. Some of them have tried to commit suicide several times and failed because what? I believe that it is not your time. And I also believe God has a plan for your life. All of us, whether we're going through one thing or the other. So, what are your thoughts on that, April, with what's going on with children and young adults, especially with suicide?
Okay. Well, so many people are, this is something that has no um, racial boundaries. It has no age boundaries in the sense of, as young as 6 and 7, it's been said this has happened. So it young and old,
Hmm.
there's something that can touch anybody at any point, and it's a very, very sad thing, um, because it has a lot to do too with just mental illnesses, deep depressions and all of these different things, just like you said, hopelessness and all that. And it's just a sad thing. It's really, really sad. And it's really tough on that person, but also the family. It leaves families broken and with a lot of questions and, wondering why, a lot of, you know, what ifs, or I maybe could have done this. So it just leaves a lot of fragmented lives, when something as tragic as suicide happens in a family.
Mhm. And it was it it's almost hey Nikita, thank you. Hey Patrice, hey ladies. It's it's sad enough when you know that your child or your loved one is, you know, is killed by an accident or illness or gunman, whatever it is. But it's even more tragic when you hear someone is taking their life, you know. And I think what is happening, and Patrice, this is a really good place because Patrice is she's a coach regarding, the mental health issues, and she deals with a lot of that. So we're talking about suicide, Patrice. So you can chime in anytime about your thoughts on that because I know you probably deal with people and a lot of people who are going through. So what I want to ask, basically, open. Have you been around anyone where you recognize the signs? What are some of the signs that we want to talk about today for a person who is attempting suicide or even have the ideation of, you know, doing it? Because it just starts with the thought, and then, I believe that grows and grows, and then some actually. So what are some of the things that you believe that, put a person in that position to say, hey, I'm going to kill myself? Because
Okay.
we have to be aware of these things.
So are you asking for the signs?
Yeah, what are some of the signs and things that, well, signs that you could tell a person is at risk for suicide or killing themselves? Yeah, let's talk
Okay.
first.
Okay. Well, I'll name just two or three. So, one of the first signs that I would say is when you see someone begin to withdraw.
Uh-huh.
They're not, you know, the social part of their life has changed. They're not as outgoing as they once were. They begin to pull into themselves or pull aside, all of that. So withdrawal is one. Um, Secondly, when they say this, paying attention to the words that they say. When they say things like, "I want to disappear," or "I don't want to be around here anymore," "I wish that it would all end," things like that, not to blow it off and take it as nothing, but really to pay attention to what they're saying because those are cries for help. When you see that, when people are saying these types of things, they're cries for help. And one more would be, if sometimes they can show aggression or anger towards something or towards their family or their loved one. They can show some anger or discontentment, you know, um, in places where it's like they're a little more touchy, about things. Those are just three signs that we can start to look for. Um, do you have any other signs, Don, you'd like to share?
Well, you mentioned the withdrawal. Those are very good signs that you have to pay attention to, especially with our young children, those who are just, isolated, and they're very drawn from social or society. Then you have the opposite to that, those who are just very outgoing. I think, let me see what Patricia mentioned here. She says most people will binge of posts on social media highlighting all the negatives in their lives. So they become very overt and very open with what's going on, and just constant negative, you know, ne- uh, statements that is just negative about what I'm having a feedback. I don't know. Is, do you hear it, Tamiko? You may want to put the volume down. You know,
Do
thing.
what now?
Is your phone volume up?
My phone? No, I'm not on my phone.
Oh, yeah, I'm hearing feedback. I don't know. It's probably me. Yes. So, of course, the sadness, of course, the depression. A lot of them have issues where they can't sleep at night and they have insomnia so bad, and some of them, like I say, do have suicide. They say it's not the mental issue, it's the act of mental illness sometimes that drive them to it, especially people who suffer with schizophrenia. They are often hear voices, or they can't sleep, they can't trust anyone, and sometimes that drives them into committing suicide. So and then so you have the labile behavior, where they one time they're full of anxiety, then the next time they're full of sadness and going into depression. And also, some of the things that we have to pay attention to is the personality changes. Some of them go into personality changes. They start moving about and acting like, they're less concerned about things, and they have this nonchalant attitude about stuff. Some of them have gone through trauma, and I know that's a big one for in the healthcare field. Some If they've had a stroke where they are not able to utilize their functions of their body, like their arms and their legs, and they're paralyzed. Sometimes that leads them to think about they just want to kill themselves because they're no use to anybody, or those thoughts will come in. So people with traumatic events, we have to pay very close attention to make sure that they get in some kind of therapy and counseling to help bring those emotions out and those feelings, because it's very traumatic, and it digs down into them. So you find another thing is when a person keeps talking about, and I've experienced this with patients or family, they're making preparation for like departure, and you're like, where are you going? They're ready to go home, and that happens a lot of times too with the elderly. Sometimes you find that the elderly go through that a lot. They People think that they don't, but the elderly are very suicidal when they get to a stage, especially those who are early Alzheimer's, dementia. When they're taken away from their homes, when they're put in maybe a nursing home, or you find that they all their life they've worked, and then now they can't work. All their life they've done things, and those things do affect them, and then they just feel hopeless. They feel hopeless, and you find that we find a lot of elderlies, you go to their home when they are living at home, and they either turn on the gas and they kill themselves, especially if it's a couple and they do dual suicide, so things like that. Patrice says, uh, believe it or not, most people cover up their need to speak up about their feelings by masking it in excessive humor. And that is so true. You hear of people who are committing suicide that you're like, I didn't know this person, something was wrong with them. They were just here and they were laughing and having such a good time. And you're wondering what happened, what drove them to that. And all along, they're battling with that. And then another sign is when a person's been suffering with depression and going through, um, you know, that social anxiety, or, just different things. And then all of a sudden, there is a switch, a change, and they come out, and, now they're socializing, they're talking, and they're telling you they're feeling good, and, they're ready to live life. Those you have to really watch out for, because a lot of times when you look that you think nothing is wrong, then they also attempt or commit suicide. So I just wanted to add those things to what Kamiko had mentioned, as far as some of the signs, some of the things to look out for. I do have I'm going to put in the chat. I think everybody should have this on their phone. I do have it on my phone. I think in one of our previous think because we talked a little bit about mental health, but I think in one of our previous show we did put the suicide hotline up, and I want to put it up again because it's important for you to have this in your phone, not on the refrigerator. You can have it on the refrigerator also, but mostly everyone is walking around with their phone. And if you come across someone or somebody that may be at risk for that, you definitely want to be able to call for the National Suicide. And the good thing about those, they have where you can text. You have different languages, so it's very important for us to be able to have access to those things for you and anyone that is going through. So, what are your thoughts on what are some things that would cause a person to want to kill themselves or to even attempt?
Oh, that's a lot of so many things, because we're all different, and we're affected by different things in different ways. So one thing that we would say, that some people would commit suicide, other people may say, what, how would that be bad enough? Especially when we look to at, like, if we were to look into the entertainment community, if we look into Hollywood, the actors and actresses, there have been such a huge number of actors and actresses who have who've committed suicide. And it's like, why? Patrice was mentioning masking their feelings with humor. One that really, touched my family, because we used to watch him all the time. We still do some of his movies, but Robin Williams, very, very talented,
Yeah.
multi-talented, very funny, very this, very that. However, it's said that he killed himself, you know. So when it comes to that, even not just in Hollywood, but very successful businessmen and women, you know, pastors. We've had an alarming amount of
Yeah.
pastors who's committed suicide. And
A little bit for me, because I know that's a topic you and I have always talked.
oh man,
You know.
that is such an alarming thing. Now, when it talk about that, I believe, and this is just my thoughts of how I feel about it. I believe that pastors are in a category where where a lot of them feel that there's no one that they can talk to because they are pastors. You know, they got all of these people that they're over, that they're responsible for in churches and all of this. But then who do they, who's teaching the teacher? Who's mentoring the mentor? Who's preaching to the preacher? Who's pastoring the pastor? So when we look at that, it's important to allow ourselves to be available to people, whether they're in a professional situation, whether they're famous, whether they're, some people have people in their lives who are professional people, famous people, people that are in the limelight, all of these different things, pastors and all this, making ourselves available for these people because they need someone to hear them too. They hurt too because they're people. They're people. And sometimes we look at it as if, because they're in these places, they can't be. They're wealthy, they're rich, they're, everybody loves them. Yes, everybody loves them except them. They don't love them. The lens that we see them through, their lens are very different. Their
Right.
lens are very gray, very cloudy, very dark. That's how they see themselves. When we're looking through the lens of all the flowers and roses and bright and beautiful and light, and we're like, you're just so great, and this, and this. They don't see themselves that way. And one of the worst things I believe we could do as human beings to others is to discard the way they feel. Discard it. Oh no, no, oh no, you no, that's not you. No, no, you don't. No, this is not what it is. Oh, you're just joking. Or you no, not discounting, but taking what they're saying seriously. This
Right.
is what they feel. This is what they think. This is what they dream about when they're alone. When they're walking in the bathroom, and first thing they look at is the pill bottle, and they
Mhm.
start beginning to take steps. You go in their bathroom, you see you don't see it. It's put away. Then you go in there again, you see number of them on the counter. Then you go in there again, you see a number of them by the bed. And
Mhm.
you're like, what, how they walk? No, these are steps, just certain things that we don't pay attention to. I think we have to pay attention to these things, and we have to pay attention to people and their feelings, because this can happen to anybody. Anybody
Yes.
having
Yes.
suicidal thoughts, whether they're just having the thoughts or having, attempted before. This is something that can happen to anybody. And so we have to be mindful of that. And if you're someone, if you're on here, if you're watching and you've had these thoughts, talk to somebody.
Mhm.
Like, talk to somebody in a hurry. Go to somebody and talk to them.
Yes.
Find you a therapist, find you a counselor, talk to your pastor, talk to your husband, your wife, your friend, your neighbor. Talk to somebody
Yes.
and let them know what you're feeling and these continual thoughts that you're having. Talk to somebody. That's the biggest thing. Talk to somebody. Somebody will hear you. Take the
Right.
number to the national hotline, call them, call them, talk to somebody. And that is like, it's such a huge thing that happens, and it affects everybody. And another thing, Don, it's interesting how the statement is commit suicide, right? The word commit, like you've committed a crime. What are your thoughts about that word commit? Because that's what the normal use of it is, that people committed suicide, like they committed some other crime. What are your thoughts about that?
Because
Because
it's
I definitely
considered.
have my own thoughts about that. So what are your thoughts about that?
I never even thought about that. That's a good point you brought up. But what came to me first is that, you know, when you mentioned commit a crime, it's because, suicide is considered a crime. That's why you're locked away. When if you commit suicide, then it's considered you have commit the ultimate crime. As far as if you're Christian, not to be religious here, but if you're Christian, it's considered the highest crime in that life of the Christian walk, because you ultimately just say God is not um, big enough to solve my problem, and He's the creator. And also, when you say commit, or because if they commit something, that means it's done. So if you commit suicide, that means it's done. You've already sealed the deal. Whereas attempted suicide, is also different, because you tried but you didn't make it. It's like, so that would be equivalent to premeditated. You premeditated murder, you planned it, you tried to kill the person, but it didn't happen. But so that would be the attempt. As far as the suicide, you tried to do it but it didn't go through. So now that you did it, it becomes a crime. That's why if you attempt suicide, they lock you away for about 3 days. I think it's 72 hours, just to make sure. And then you have to prove to them you're not harmful to yourself. It's very weird, but they're protecting you against your own self. And most people, I remember when I was working in in the hospital in the ICU. I remember one girl who tried to commit suicide, and she said, "It's my life. I can do whatever I want to do," because they were sending her down to Georgia. Um, um, what's that place for? The they hold you over for like three days.
Yeah.
So she was not happy about that, and of course, had to call in the therapist, the doctor, and things like that. But basically, you're here on earth. It's not your life. We say it's our life, but it's not your life. There's still some control over you, even down to trying to take your life. That's considered a crime. So the sad thing is that most people who succeed, they can't come back. But that's my take about the commit. Let me see what Patrice says. It can also be the fact that they committed to the act. And before I go back to you, Tomiko, let me list some of the things she mentioned here. She says, in terms of Hollywood, even a negative comment that goes viral can put someone in state to become suicide.
That's true.
And that is so true. And I
That's
saw
true.
that because you mentioned about the pastors and being in the limelight, and then have celebrities who are also in the limelight. And sometimes things are not even true, but they can disgrace a person's character so bad in them. And some people just feel like they need to just run and hide, or some people have committed suicide. So that is true. And she also says pastors also need to be vulnerable just as the church members. But I think, like what Camille mentioned with that, some of them probably want to, but it's the backlash they get. How, the backlash, that's why the Bible says that for us not to idolatrize,
Idolatry?
idolatry, not worship anybody above God, because when we start thinking that way, we start thinking that pastors are idols. We start thinking that they do no wrong. So when they do fall, you walk away, and instead of you pray for them, because they are human and they mess up just like we mess up. But they're supposed to represent a more high, judge by a more high standard, but they are still human. Um, she said we should all be open to expressing our feelings and receiving healthy feedback. At the same time, we should all be willing to listen to others express their own feelings. I
Yeah.
agree with that.
Yeah.
And lastly, it can also be that they come to the act. So I have
Yeah.
thoughts to people.
Yeah. Yeah. So it is so interesting how that is stated. That you're committing suicide, because it is such a, to me, and not to be insensitive to those that's experienced a loved one that's committed suicide, or that's someone or a coworker or anything, not to be insensitive in any way to that, because it's so major and it's very, very painful. However, you know you are a person,
Mhm.
and you do a crime against your own self. So committing suicide, it is like, it's considered a crime, because you've killed someone, but that someone is you. So you can't be put away in prison or locked away or anything like that, because you've already killed the person
Yes.
that
Whatever.
you've killed the person that is the victim. You become your own victim. Now, the reasons behind it, because there are a lot of rules of thoughts of, oh, it is not committing it because that would imply that, they did something wrong, but he was sick. Yeah, but sick people can also commit crimes. It's ways that people, when you've gone through that, you want to put flowers around it. You want to sweeten it up. you know, where, so it doesn't look this way. This is something that is painful. You are not just hurting yourself. When you attempt, or when a person commits suicide, to anyone that's out there watching that is contemplating suicide, this is not a victimless crime. First, the first and foremost major victim is you.
Yes.
You are your first major victim.
Yes.
Secondly, everyone that loves you becomes your victim. Thirdly, every person that you influence become your victim. Even the people that you haven't met yet becomes your victim. The little kid across the street that watches you every day come outside and water your plants, or watches you every Saturday come outside and wash your car. The little boy that pulls up and just stop on the sidewalk and watch you as you come out there and cut your lawn, he becomes your victim. She
And
becomes your
that's
victim.
important that you said that because I was reading in my research that one of the reason why or people who commit suicide, they also talk about knowing a person, a friend. And I was like, I thought that was interesting. A friend that committed suicide will also lead another friend to committing suicide.
Yes.
That's one. I thought that was in when I was doing my research on that. But
Yeah.
um, when you mentioned little boy, because sometimes they grow up well, a lot of times they don't understand right from wrong until it's instilled and shown to them. But growing up, say, okay, well, I remember that lady. She was so nice to me. I always said hello. She came out and she, didn't look like nothing was wrong, and she committed suicide. So maybe it's okay for me to do that, you know. And people who play Russian roulette, as a game, well, that's committed suicide, and you still for fun, yeah.
Yeah, that's very reckless. Just like some of these challenges that are out now, we have to be very, very mindful. One thing about social media is great when it's great, but it's horrible when it's horrible. And it's just what it is. On there you have the cyberbullying, which is terrible. There's been so many children, young people that's committed suicide because they've been cyber bullied.
That's
They've had something go viral, like Patrice mentioned before. They face this bullying on there. They post a photo and somebody picks out something, and then they blow up this big thing that they think is a flaw. They make it a flaw, and then that teenager, just internalize all of them. That is why
yes, yes.
I believe as parents, we have to be more involved in what our kids are watching, what social media platforms they're on. And I know that it's this thing that says we got our privacy. But I feel like this as a mother, right? I feel like this as a mother. If you're living in my house, the only privacy you get is that has been so graciously given to you. That means that it can be taken literally, because I care and I love my kids. Like, you're not going to go in your room and lock up in your room, and you got a sign on the door that says keep out. I don't know who that sign's for, because when I pay for this place you're living in, that door is mine too. I pay for that door. So I don't know who that sign's for. So that would not be something that, like, we have to be more involved, because I was just hearing a parent a few days ago, a parent on television. It was on a show, I think Doctors. They were talking about this drug that's out there. I think it's called ICE or something, where kids are trying it. And
Wow.
now things like Snapchat, a lot of drug dealers are using Snapchat to
Yeah.
sell drugs. So these words and stuff that they're using,
One side that
we have to be more involved so that we can know what's going on. So if your kid has a password on Snapchat and they're, 9, 10, 12, they this, and they're on there all the time. You need to have that password. You need to be able to get in there periodically. So when you go in there, go back again later so you can make sure they haven't changed that password because they
I was
will.
just about to say that. I was waiting for you to finish and
Yeah,
then check too to make sure they're not
yeah,
changing.
go back periodically. Just don't do it one time and then don't do it again. But check. This is about their safety. If someone is being bullied online, you need to know that. Check their accounts. Now, secondly, even with adults, we can't check adults' accounts and all this because that's them. But we have to be aware and speak up for them. If we're seeing some things online, we're seeing some things. If we're close to those people, talk to them, see where their headspace is, see where they are. Because when it comes down to it, there are so many different things like that we have to contend with that are out there that we want to be aware of. And we don't want to step on toes and we don't want to, invade privacies. But if it's going to save someone's life, yes, please do cross that line. If it's going to intervene in someone committing suicide, like as Don brought up, one friend will lead another. And sometimes that friend that leads another, they don't even follow through after this one has already committed suicide.
True.
They don't follow through because now they see, this is real. See, a lot of these challenges that they have out, putting the plastic bag over their heads and all of this stuff, people have died from that. All of these different things, these we cannot. We need to be people where we can pull our kids from being these followers. Because everyone is doing it, it doesn't mean we have to do it.
Right.
To make some decisions for yourself. So we need to pay attention to what people are going through and people are facing because it can happen to anybody. It can happen to anybody. You lose a loved one. I remember when I was a kid, it was a guy. I think I've shared this story with Don, and I'm gonna tell it quick. It was a guy that lived in our apartment complex. His name was Romeo. He's called his wife Juliet. He loved her. They loved each other. And one day they broke up. I was really small then, really little, young kid. One day they broke up. Romeo took a gun, took it around the building, put it on his chin, and blew his head off.
Mm-mm.
His brains went up on the wall. And not to be graphic, but it's a real thing that happened. And I know that we like to kind of sugarcoat things. Oh, they just, no, this is real and it affects everybody. When I was young, when this happened, they left his body laying outside until the people who needed to come came. But we could walk around that building days and weeks later and still see the splatter of his brains on the side of the building. I was really, really young. And I am 44 years old now. And that's just as vivid to me now as it was then. Just as vivid. So the victims are huge. A lot of people are victimized behind suicide. It's not a victimless crime. It is not. And we have to look at it as being what it is. We want to talk to people and we want to be available. And especially now, everybody is so busy doing all these things, right? Doing all the things. But then when it comes to it, also, now that Corona has hit and people are now a little more isolated, we found other ways to be so busy doing all the things. We have to slow down and listen. Like I tell my kids, right? The kids that I care for, put on your listening ears. Tune in, put on your listening ears. You should never leave home without your listening ears. Hear what is being said to you. Stop and take a moment to process. Like they say, stop and smell the roses. Absolutely. Stop and take a moment. When someone is speaking to you, don't spend time thinking about what you got to do next instead of listening. Don't spend time thinking about what you're going to say next, but really tune in and listen to what they're saying. And a lot of time when you're listening to the words, you can hear what's not being said. You
Yeah.
can only do that if you're truly listening.
Yeah.
You can only do that if you're truly listening. And I'm one of those people where I am very intentional about listening. And I'm that way because I'm also a person who's had suicidal thoughts before. And I wanted to be heard. I wanted someone that would take time to listen. And that is for me. I want to give people the gift of my time, of my listening, myself. I want to give people me in the whole because a lot of times people are crying out to be heard and to be seen. They want people to empathize, not sympathize. You want to sympathize in some, but everything is not to be. People don't want to be felt sorry for sometimes. They want you to feel what they feel. They want you to understand their pain. Listen to them. Okay, Don.
I
My
think
bad.
that's great, and thank you so much for your transparency because a lot of times people look at one another in society, and they we're here bringing awareness to situations that's going on in our culture, in our backyard, just across the border and across the nation, period. And, like you look at the newscasters and they come to bring the news, and you're wondering, oh, they don't understand. They don't know what's going on. They all up there with the pretty this and the pretty that.
Mhm.
And they're downcast because they're doing a job. But most of the time, people don't really know that they too have to go home and deal with their own giants, their own demons, and what they're suffering from. So don't discount anyone just because they look better, in a higher position, or they're here bringing awareness. People, have gone through some things, and I bless God that you've made it through, be
Absolutely.
able to be a spokesperson to say, hey, I've been there. So these are the things that I need to pay attention to. These are the things that you couldn't hear it more better from a person herself who have been in this situation. And
Yeah.
we need to be more transparent in life
Yes.
and not just only people in general, but your children, your family, your father, mothers, your sisters, brothers, friends. Everybody really needs to be. I know there's a time and place for things, but there's also times for truth. Also times to hear
Yes.
truth and hear transparency, because that could save somebody. Because a lot of times people, especially with the teens, and again, like I was doing my research, the teens are recognized as the highest leading set of people, set of individuals who are, committing suicide. And you sit there and you wonder, oh my God, my child right now is 7. I have 7 children. Of course, all the others are adults, but I have, young children who are growing up, getting ready to, be in their teens. Well, in about 6, Emmanuel. But it's just the fact when I learned teenagers, the teens, if the suicide rate is highest and it's getting lower, the school
Mhm.
ages, like I mentioned earlier, part.
Yeah.
But when you really think about it and come back again, piggybacking on what you said earlier, it's vitally important that we have to build our children.
Yes.
We have to hear them. We have to lead them. We have to know and listen. You know, when my daughter was mentioning to me the other day, she don't think she was pretty and she don't think she was there. And I had to like really stop and put on my lap and say, okay, talk to me. What's really going on? Why you feel this way? Reinforce what we say every
That's
day.
it.
And the reason why I'm being transparent and saying this is because there's a declaration I say over my with my children every morning. I am beautiful. I'm smart. I'm intelligent. I'm loved by God. I'm a Jesus girl. I'm a Jesus boy. I'm strong. I am wise. I am beautiful. Emmanuel, um, and I also speak for her. I'm pretty, and he said I'm handsome. Because it's important that they understand. I want them to know, yes, you are, and no matter what nobody says, you are. So I instilled that from an early age. So with me doing that, and she the other day said that, maybe, okay, did someone say that to you? She said, no. How did you come about that? Why you feel that way? What brought you to this thought? So these are things that we have to really be mindful, because children, and Yorel is only 6. She just turned 6 in February.
Yeah.
So can you believe a 6-year-old? She's like, I'm not beautiful, I'm not pretty. And then she's sad because that, I mean, and tears coming out of her eyes. And I'm like, okay, this is a little deeper than she just trying to, whine. So I had to sit down and listen to her and reinforce and let her know, hey, this is not true. You are beautiful. Remember what mommy said about you? And she said, yes. I go through that and question. I said, did anybody say anything? Did the school say anything? Children say anything to you? I had to like put it on the list. So, make a long story short, yes, you have to be listening, and you have to, understand what our children and our adults too. Because leave it on that, another set of people who are likely to commit suicide are people who are not married. There's so many people, and I was like, are you serious? Oh my goodness. Unmarried people, they are likely to commit suicide because they feel like nobody wants them, they can't find somebody. I mean, and this is important for them. Marriage is important for them, you know. And I was reminded of Tamar, you know, uh, in the Bible. She was raped by her brother and then become a discard, because back then you had to be a virgin when you connect with someone else.
That's right.
And so her life was ruined. And even her brother put her up in she worked in the palace or whatever, but that was her life forever. She was not going to ever meet a husband. I was going to, she was tarnished. So if it happened in the Bible, I can think of people who believe. And again, it's only education, knowledge, and understanding that gain this perspective of, okay, yes, people that want to get married and like what themselves, you know, people who are sexually abused, and then you can sit back and say, well, I can see why a person want to, destroy their life. They've been raped, they've been sexually abused by their, their parents or family members or strangers or whatever. So they feel like nothing can fix that. They feel like they can never reach happiness. But these are people that needs to be introduced to others. That's why it's important for that people talk, because you need to introduce, or if you're one of those people, you need to hear stories from people who've gone through your situation. You're not by yourself, and they're still living. They're making an effort to become advocate for either that situation that happened to you or for somebody else. So it's just so many different things that can, why people commit suicide, or will most likely be, vulnerable to suicide. Talked earlier about a loved one. What I find, people who have been married for 15 years, 50, 60 years, and their loved one died, what they do, they're going to kill themselves too, because they feel like they can't live without their wife or their spouse, and they also kill themselves, you know, and don't discard people who have attempted suicide, because
Hmm.
a lot of times they try it again and they succeed. So it's just so much, and we can go on and on and on. But I think this is just really important for us to, be mindful. Those who are substance abuse, those who are not just only street drugs or recreational drugs. We're talking about now that you people are healed. I know one young lady, she was addicted to Benadryl, and melatonin, one of those. She was addicted to that and overdosed on that. So street drugs, prescription drugs, all of that, that's substance abuse. And those people too develop ideation that they become hopeless and they become depressed, and they, they want to end their lives. Um, it's so many different people that you never really think about. The professionals in healthcare, doctors who owe so much money and can't get their practice together, or they've been sued for malpractice, or doctors commit suicide too. It's just crazy. But we want to talk a little bit about, how can this be prevented, and everything is really all about education and helping you know prevent those. But if a wants to do it and you're not around, they can do it. So we want to make sure they have the hotline up for you and the individual. If you feel this kind of way, call this. We want to make sure all that we talk about, that people are connected with therapy, counseling, access to loved ones, people, and a listener like Coach, and recognizing the warning signs, and report if you find a person danger to themselves, have to report those things, because it's important for us to. I know I just rambling on. So what do you? So,
Oh no, no, no. You're fine. You're fine. But yeah, we one thing that we could do, because there are just so, and it's such a serious thing, because people that have the suicidal thoughts can lead to the suicidal attempts, can lead to suicide commission. So it's like, we have to pay attention. So Lisa's saying sometimes just the embarrassment from living with the shame for what is going on in their lives, they believe that is the best choice. That's so true. That's so true. Shame is very powerful,
mhm,
and there's been studies about shame, that how it actually affects the body inside.
mhm,
Do a little research on it. You'll be amazed. It's amazing. These things that we look at and be like, you know, they have lasting effects. And they have effects in our physical body
mhm,
that causes, you know, that causes different things in our bodies, guilt, shame, disappointments, all of these things people um, have to live with, or bothered by, are feeling, and all of that. They're feeling these different things and they don't know what to do with them. So the best way to get rid of the pain of heartbrokenness is to kill themselves, to do away with it all, to
yeah,
disappear, to go, to not exist, to be somewhere where nobody else is. See, all of these sayings that people say, that don't really say, I want to commit suicide, but they'll say, oh, I want to disappear. I just want to go where no one else is, or I want to go where no one knows me, or I
mhm,
just want to be alone. I want to be by myself. Yeah, I want to go to another world, or I don't want to be around anymore. All of that. When you ask yourself, well, how can you be where no one else is? How can you do? Really, and I know everybody that watched this is probably not spiritual or religious, but I'm just gonna go on and say this because it's important and it's true. There is a spirit behind this. When you hear people talking about suicide and all the negative, there's a spirit behind it
mhm,
that's telling them that they're not worth living. That's telling them that things will never get better. You know, one good thing that we could do is find groups of people, find groups to go to and just sit and talk. Just like they have AA and all of this, they have people, they have groups for people who have suicidal thoughts, and people who have committed suicide, or who have attempted suicide. They have groups for this. So find a group near you to go and just sit among the people, because you will find that there are more people that feel the way you do and that understand where you are more than you think. There's people, we have to be transparent, as Donna said. We have to begin to talk. We have to begin to talk and say what is going on. I used to be like a ball, like literally, I would not talk to people about me. I would listen to other people. I love to listen to other people and to be that ear and that shoulder, for other people. But I would not allow people to know me. And so I would keep all of that in, which wasn't good and isn't good. So for those that feel like, oh, I'm a good listener, but not a good talker, sometimes you find you a safe place and just let it go. I had to practice. And I'm going to tell you how I practice. I practice being by myself, just speaking it out of my mouth, not holding it in anymore, speaking it out of my mouth, getting it out from in here is freeing. It relieves pressure. It relieves a lot of things. So I started by speaking it out of my mouth. Well, I'm feeling this. I feel this. I don't like it. I don't like this. I didn't like when this happened to me. I didn't like when that happened to me. I didn't like when they said this. When they said this, it made me feel this. I don't want to feel that. So get to a place, start speaking it out loud. Once I got better with speaking it out loud, when nobody was around, then God in his soul, he's so awesome. He began to put people in my path that became a safe place for me. Because you can't talk to everybody, because everybody won't listen. But there will be somebody. There will always be somebody, not everybody. Because you want to talk to the right people. You don't want to have a person that becomes a fan of what you're feeling and not try to direct you out of a dark place. So I began to get with people and talk to certain people about, well, I don't like this. Then I began to learn the word no, and that it was okay for me to say the word no, because for me, that was hard. For me, I felt like I had to say that to do this or that because someone asked. No, when I learned the word no, and then when I learned that, okay, I'm worth this, so I don't have to allow this to happen to me because this. So I got to a place when someone would do something to me or say something to me, and it made me feel, and I would tell them, hey, I didn't like when you said that to me. When you said that to me, it made me feel this. I don't want to feel that. So that's not okay for you to say that to me. I still love you, but you don't have to allow someone to abuse you or allow someone to cause you to go deeper into a dark place. You want people that's going to help you walk in light, not push you down in darkness, So these are just things that I'm telling you that I went through myself. Things that I did for myself, that I by God's grace, I'll say that. Now, if y'all don't know yet, I am a woman of God. I believe in God. I serve God. He's my everything, right? So I take no credit for myself. He saved me, literally for me, literally, because I was my biggest enemy. So from that, so that's why when I meet people, I don't mind talking to them. I believe transparency is beautiful. Yes. I believe when you're at a place and you feel led, like me, I wait and I listen and I try to hear God tell me when to share this or that. And when he tells me it's okay, I'll share it because I know that it can save somebody. I know that it could help somebody. So I'm not looking at the way people look at me about sharing this. I'm not concerned about that. But what I'm concerned about is that person that needs to hear it, and it helps them to see things from a different perspective that can somehow cause them to think differently and move more towards light. Right. That's what I intend to do. That's what I want. And overall, I want to be used by God to help people and draw them closer to Him, draw them into a place of peace, draw them in a place of security and just joy, and where you just feel the joy of the Lord. So for me personally, I keep my perspective right, and I be real honest with myself, because I've been down that road where I've had those thoughts. So I be honest with myself, and I say, hey, look, so this is what I'm feeling today. So let's get this right. And then I get my perspective right. Okay, Lisa's saying, agreed. We need that destiny helpers that will help us walk on water. Come on, Lisa. Lisa's going to start preaching. Yes, we can be our own blessing blocker. Come on, Lisa is in a sermon right now. I just want everybody to know that. Right now, Lisa is preaching. I'm with you, Lisa. Like, seriously. It's true. Like, we need people that we need to look at the people around us. It is good to take inventory of your surroundings. The people that are constantly in your ear and constantly in your space, take note of that. Are they positive people? Are they not positive people? Are they negative? Do they help you? Do they not? Are they an asset or liability? Which one? It's good to know who are around you. It's good to know. And so we just have to be, it's good to be, I should say, people that are aware. You need to be aware of what you're feeling. If you, these people that carry these titles, and I said this a lot, and we're gonna do a show on it too. I said this a lot. When you get people, and I look at this because we're around a lot of people that are Christians and all of this as well, and not just Christians now. People that are in professional, doctors and lawyers, and actors and actresses, and all of the celebrities and people that are in other professions and all of this. If you were to strip away all of your titles, just tear them all off, all your titles, take off all your hats, who are you? Do you know that person? Do you recognize that person anymore? Who are you without all of that? Because as we've seen, titles can leave quickly. People lose their practices. People lose their legal right to practice law. They're disbarred. Actresses lose jobs. Mothers lose children. Fathers lose children. People lose their jobs. All of these things happen. If these things were to happen, could you recognize the person who is under all of those labels and hats? Do you recognize that person? Who are you outside of that? I remember I was talking to a friend one time, and I asked her, well, what do you want? What would you like? She started telling me about everybody else, what they wanted. And I said, well, I noticed that when I asked you about you, you told me about everybody else. And she was like, oh, I didn't realize that. I said, yeah, you did. So I would say take a little time to really spend time with you. And it's, it's not about, being by yourself, but being with yourself. Take time to spend time with you, to get to know who you are outside of all of the labels and all of the hats. So I'm going to turn it back over to Dawn so that we can start to close out. And we want to remind you of that suicide prevention number. And Dawn is going to walk you through some other things. So, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I'm put the suicidal number up
yes.
again. So it's also in the chat. If you can take note of that and record that. If you don't have it, please add that phone number to your phone for the future. Hopefully, you don't have to use it, because of, non-suicidal thoughts. But some of the things that I just remind you, me, us, like if you see those warning signs that we talk about, you want to start paying attention to the things that's going on in a person's life, whether it's your friend, your family, or even healthcare. There's something, cause illnesses and then go to the hospital and they kill themselves. So, try to be calm in your talk. And the one thing that we don't want to do is just accuse people and beat down on them. They already feel bad. So
Yeah.
don't take anybody to the cliff, okay? So if you notice or really recognize the person is trying to kill themselves, you definitely don't want to leave them alone. And those are things that you have to be mindful of. The things that they say, the things that they talk about, or definitely check on them and because trust me, if they're going to attempt, they're not going to answer the phone. They're going to, make themselves available to you. So you kind of have to do an addiction, act aggressively, meaning go, show up, no, encourage, open this door, and deal with the consequences later. Of course, you want to call 911 for sure, if you find that this is happening or they've done something wrong to themselves. You want to let people know about that. Call 911. So those are some of the things that you wanted to go over. Don't be afraid to address it. You want to start asking if you kind of see signs and things like that. Are you on medication? Did you take some medicine? How much did you take? If they're looking sluggish and those kind of things, you want to inquire about that.
Yeah.
And go forward with that. So those are our that's our conclusion to our topic today. We just want you to be aware this stuff is happening in your backyard. It's highest in the highest rate and statistics is in our children, our youth. We want to be mindful of that. You don't just call anybody. It could be a coworker, it could be a mother, it could be a father, it could be an unmarried woman next door, like Kumi mentioned, the neighbor. That's all kinds of things. A person that's going through a loss, physical, people with physical, emotional issues, all sorts of things that could be reason for why people are committing suicide. So just keep the eyes open, the ears attentive, and watch those things that threaten the lives of individuals that is around us so we can save lives. And
Yes.
that concludes my discussion. We're going to close out and questions, or if you have any ideas that you want to send to us, with accepting as always. And we look forward to seeing you all next Friday. So here's the announcement for Harvest Ministry. We want to let you know that we are doing a prayer intercession tomorrow at 6 p.m. We'll be videoing live like this. Looking forward to seeing you all join in, praying with us. Yesterday was National Prayer Day. We did some did on our own, some we did with others. So I want you all to join us for our prayer intercession that's going to be taking place at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. So just listen out for the flyers, um, the information, so you can pray with us because we got to do this. We got to do this. We have too many things that afflict us in our nation, and we have to be praying, not just one time, not just national day. We have to be consistently
Mhm.
praying. The Bible says that pray consistently, so we have to do that. Amen. So that is for prayer, and then the following week, roundtable discussion is going to be talking about sexual purity, and that is going to be a great discussion. So I'm looking forward to seeing you all joining in as we continue to progress channel through because it is a rough, tough world out there. So we want to bring things on the table, parents, help people to overcome barriers or obstacles that is holding them down. So that's my appeal for Happy Harvest Ministry, and we will continue to be a blessing to everyone with us and continue. Thank you for being a blessing to us. I'm gonna turn it to Visible Root now, so she can announce before we close.
Yeah, so guys, thank you so much for coming, and we ask that you share this broadcast over. We wanted to go over. This is a discussion that really need to be talked about more because we face it everywhere. So thank you again for showing up. I just, first, I just want to say that National Day of Prayer was such an awesome, awesome thing. We got together with the chaplaincy at the Interfaith Chaplaincy at the Hartsfield Jackson Airport. They are awesome, great people. If you're at the airport flying, go upstairs, check them out. Go in there and just say hi. They got a prayer room right there too. You know, just go in there, just say hi. They're awesome. They really are. So I just want to give a shout out to them. And there were just so many other pastors and people that came together to pray on yesterday from just different places, um, different countries. And it was just really, really awesome to see that, people coming together to pray and all of that. And so, although it's the National Day of Prayer, we want to encourage people to pray every day. We got to come together to pray for the things that are happening in our nation and in this world. We are in this world. We live here. We're sojourning through here. We really are. So the things and the laws and all these things that are being put out, they affect us. They affect us. They affect our way of life. They affect the things that we do. So I want to just encourage everyone to just continue to pray, link up with organizations like Visible Roots, like Happy Harvest, and come together with us and pray with us. So I'm going to ask you to look us up on Facebook, on Instagram, Visible Roots Inc. There's another Visible Roots out there, but we're Visible Roots Inc. Okay, and we've got a tree. Our logo is a tree. It has a tree on it. So look us up, follow us on there. We are definitely just looking forward to the things that's coming up. We'll be having more of these discussions and all of that over that platform as well. So just team up with organizations like Happy Harvest and Visible Roots Inc. and let's plow forward and pray and talk about the things that aren't talked about because we want to really impact this nation with truth. We want to discuss things so people can have a better understanding and all of that and be free to talk. So we want to just encourage you to do that. Again, thank you so much for coming on with us today. And we want to continue to talk about the things that matter to you. So any topics you have, you can send it to us, to the Happy Harvest. You can go send a message over the Happy Harvest website. You can go to visibleroots.org and find us there, send a message over there. Go and visit our websites and all of that. Show and send us a message and let us know that you've been on there. Let us know, all of that. So we want to just, give everyone an opportunity to team up with us because it's just important to do. We want to team up with you and build a growing family of people that want to talk about the things that is affecting our nation and our families. So, yeah, thank you guys for coming on again. And yeah, we're just glad about, you spending your time with us. We don't take that lightly.
Awesome. Thanks, Kamiko. I appreciate you. It's always a pleasure. Look
It's
forward
always a
to
pleasure.
doing this with you again next week. And hopefully, we're going to have some more interesting topics that we can talk about. So I'll see you all and looking forward to seeing you next week. Um, yeah, just bear with me for a second here. Let me get Kamiko is much better than saying. Okay.